We've got our buttons all set up and ready to go, but we still have a little bit more setup work to do. I need to set up sections so that when my user clicks on these buttons, they actually have something to look at. Now, we've got two of them set up. Our home page, that's going to be our photo. Let me just scroll down the timeline here a little bit. That's when our photo completely comes in. And we can even see that if we scroll down to where the home content is. And there I can see the finish of the movement of that home picture. And that's where we're going to set that up. In fact, the home picture disappears right here, and that's where our portfolio section starts. So we've got those two sections built, and like I said, ready to go. Now, let me close up the button layer just for a second. And that way we can see a little bit more of what's going on in both sections. We've even got a stop here in the portfolio section. Now, as we've seen, the portfolio content, because it's a movie clip, just plays right on. So what I need to do is add some content for the exhibitions area and then for the contact area. Now, just so we don't have to make that up, I've got a couple of text files in the Chapter 7 folder that we can use for text for our exhibitions and contact section. So all we really need to do is set up a couple of layers and add that content in. I'm going to add those two layers right above the portfolio content. So for starters, let's just click on the portfolio content layer. I'll insert a new layer. And let's name this new layer Exhibitions Content. I'll double click on the layer name and we'll just type that in. I'll hit return. And we also need a keyframe to put that into. Now, since we've got our home content kind of in the early portion of the timeline, and we've got our portfolio section right about frame 100, let's just go down a little ways. I'm going to go down to about frame 120, and I'm just going to click and insert a keyframe there. I can use either F6 or F7 because that layer is blank currently, and I'll get a blank keyframe either way. Next, I'll just Alt-Tab out to the desktop. And there I've got our Chapter 7 project folder. Now you can see I've just got a couple of text files in here, and we've got a graphic that we're going to be pulling in as well. So I'm just going to double click on the exhibition dates, and you can see we've just got some cities and dates in here as text. I'll just select the entire group. I'll copy it, and we'll go back to our Flash application. And let's just grab the text tool. Now, earlier when we were using the text tool, I just clicked and typed. But you can also use the text tool by clicking and dragging out a box. That'll give you a text container that will wrap your text. So right here in the exhibitions content layer, I'm just going to click and drag out a text field. And I'll paste my text right on into it. Now you can see my text wraps and goes right down to the bottom. But we don't have the right color settings on it, so I'm just going to set that up. I'll select all the text that we pasted in. And first of all, I want it to be white text, so let's change the color. I also want to use Arial for my font. You can use any font you like, but let me just scroll up here to the top, and there's Arial. And I want it considerably bigger than 12 points. So I'm just going to pull that on up until we get a nice looking text block, somewhere around 18, 19, maybe 20 point text. Now let me just go down to the paragraph settings in our text properties. I'm going to set this text to right aligned while I have it selected. And I still need to adjust the wrapping because I've got that 3 character down here at the bottom. So if we go over to that box that's up in the upper right hand corner of the text field, we can click and drag and we can modify the size of the box and modify the wrapping. You can kind of see how it's wrapping here. So I just want to get rid of that hanging 3 character down there at the bottom. And let's take a look. I've got cities and dates dropped all the way down through here. So that actually looks pretty good. Now I'm going to switch back over to my normal selection tool. And we can move this around. I want it right up kind of in the corner there. And that looks pretty good for my exhibition date, so I'm going to click away from everything. Next, we'll need an area for our contact page. So let's set that one up. I currently have my exhibitions content layer selected, so if I click on my new layer button, I'll get a new layer right above that. And let's just call that contact content. I'll hit the Enter key, and let's give ourselves a keyframe that we can put that into. Now again, I'm just spacing things out a little bit, so let me move down the timeline, and let's go about to frame 140 here. You can always change it later. I'll press F6, and I have a new blank keyframe there ready to go. And we're going to drop some content in here. Now, you can kind of see with this particular one that I'm going to need to get rid of the content for our exhibition section. I don't want that showing if my user's in the contact area. So I'm going to need to remove that, and probably the best way to do so is inserting a blank keyframe. So I'm going to go right underneath that keyframe we just created in the same frame but in the exhibitions layer and press F7. Now we need the same thing here with our portfolio content. We just didn't see it. Remember, our movie clip actually starts off with an invisible image on the side, but as soon as that animation starts playing, it's going to roll over here and run through all the photos. So we're also going to need to remove the content from the portfolio layer. You can see those blank keyframes come in handy. So let's just click on the portfolio layer right on the same frame below our keyframe where our exhibitions content is located. And once again, press F7, and that'll remove that. Now we can go over to our frame 140, and let's drop something in that contact layer. Now I've got a picture and some text for this one. So I'm going to go over to File first. I'll use Import, and this time I'm going to do Import to Stage. If we go to our Chapter 7 folder, I'll just go to Desktop, Project Files, our Chapter 7 folder, and we have this picture of San Francisco from the air. So I'm going to open that one up. And because I choose Import to Stage, it not only imported it to the library, but it dropped a copy right in my current position on the timeline. Now I'm just going to move this over just a little bit. I'll nudge it down with my arrow keys. And let's go ahead and bring in our text for this area as well. I'll Alt-Tab out to the desktop. I've got my project folder right here for Chapter 7, and there we can see a contact address. Now I'll just move up and select that text so that I can copy it. Control-C or Command-C. And let's switch back to our Flash application. And I'll just go over to my text tool. We'll drag out another text field, and we'll paste our text right into it. Now we can change the wrapping for this text field, but we can also force the wrapping wherever we want. For instance, I can just place my cursor right here at the beginning of the word suite. I'll add a carriage return, and you can see that appears on the next line. And then I'll do the same thing at San Francisco here, and that's going to appear on the next line. Now let me just go back over to my normal selection tool, and we can nudge our text into position. I'll use my arrow keys to move it up just a little bit. And the last thing in our content section I want is the word email that we're going to use as a button. So I'm going to go use my text tool once again. This time I'm just going to click. I should still have right align selected. So if I just type email in all caps, there we go. And I'll click away. We'll be using that as a button later on in this chapter.